here so far?
Yes, sir. We are waiting for him, waiting for her.
Yes, sir, I'm trying to call her.
Uh-huh.
What do you think of the game before the game? Every time there is some kind of joint social session, it's also kind of a game.
I like that idea. Yes. Yeah. I like the concept of how groups evolve. The one that uses the forming, norming. You know, there's all the very gentle feeling around stuff at the beginning. Then there's sorting out who's got authority. Then there's working together. Then there's collaboration, and then we all break up and go home. It's kind of a game that we play when we don't know we're playing a game.
Well, I know. I think there's games everywhere in life, so I don't really even know what is a game and what is not a game. So I'm just trying to, and most games I don't like. So I'm trying to like.
Oh. So have you come across the work of Eric Byrne?
No.
Yes.
Oh, I'll put it in the chat.
Games people play.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the name of the game? We should ask when we meet in group.
Well, he was a very close observer of human behavior.
Okay.
And identified many games that we play, even when we don't know we're playing a game. So
Okay.
if you're interested in that, it is not new, but it is very interesting. I think you will find it quite fascinating.
Yeah. Games people play.
Yeah. That's the key book. There's lots of other work. His psychological framework was called, whoops, I better spell it properly.
I think our speaker guest is.
Yes, we have the speaker with us.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Are you there? Yes.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sir, shall I start the session?
Good afternoon.
Yes, please.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you for joining us for the first webinar of the season 2025 in our webinar series, Pratiti, organized by the Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming at Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, India. We are delighted to commence this season with an insightful session on serious game design, a topic of immense significance in the evolving landscape of gaming education and interactive experiences. Today's session is led by a distinguished speaker, Dr. Sarmishta Banerjee, Assistant Professor at the Department of Design, IIT Guwahati, India, whose expertise in design, user experience, and serious game development is truly remarkable. Before we move forward, let us take a moment to formally welcome and introduce our esteemed speaker for today's webinar. Dr. Sharmishta Banerjee is an assistant professor in the Department of Design at IIT Guwahati and an associate faculty at the Center for Disaster Management and Research. She specializes in design for sustainability and is the co-founder of the Sustainability and Social Innovation Lab at IIT Guwahati. Her research is focused on transforming consumption and production systems through sustainable product service system design interventions. She plays an active role in the Global Learning and Education Network in Sustainability, LENS, a consortium of over 150 universities worldwide working on sustainable distributed economy solutions. Her work is closely aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, particularly SDG 12, responsible consumption and production through her role at the Department of Design and SDG 11 Sustainable Cities and Communities, through her role at the Center for Disaster Management and Research. With her vast experience in the intersection of design, sustainability, and gamification, she brings invaluable insights into today's session on serious game design. So without further ado, it's my honor to invite Dr. Sharmishta Banerjee to lead today's session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I will share my screen.
Sure.
So, is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Thanks for the introduction. So I will be talking about serious game design. So let's begin with games and gamification. So games are an effective tool for increasing engagement and motivation. And when we are talking about gamification, we are talking about bringing in these elements of games. So the elements of games, what we are talking about. So when we are talking about games, we mean like any structured activity which is meant for entertainment, which has certain amount of challenge in itself, and maybe some learning. Games do not think so much about learning, but when we are talking about gamification and a serious game context, we are talking about that learning is a key goal. It involves certain kind of rules, goals, and often have an element of competition. Now, competition is not very important. I will show you in an example where we have created an interesting balance between competition and collaboration. Competition to a certain extent is very important to keep people motivated. But certain times your main aim might be, the main educational aim might be to teach people that collaboration is something that is the key to be able to succeed in a certain scenario. And then we might have to design the game in a manner that competition is still there, because competition is something which makes a game fun. And still you are able to teach collaboration. A game can be very simple. So let's say we all know about games like Snakes and Ladder and Ludo. They are simple. Of course, if you give a game like Snakes and Ladder or Ludo to a 3-year-old, it might not be simple to this person. So simple or complex depends on the experience level of the player, the age of the player. So games can be simple. They can be like Snakes and Ladder or Ludo, and they can be extremely complex like chess, involving lots of rules and different kind of strategies, different levels of challenges, different kinds of entertainment involved. So what is gamification? When we are applying these elements of game design in non-game context and making it, when we are doing this gamification, it is not necessary that people should feel like they are playing a game. It may be that people feel like they are playing a game and then they learn something. That can be a way. It can also be like they know that they are not playing a game, but they are having this fun element involved, competition involved, and the other aspects like there are certain rules, there is challenge, all these aspects of games. So both is possible. So we use these game principles to encourage engagement. That's the main aim why we are using these principles, to improve engagement so that people are constantly having fun. And as a result, learning becomes fun activity. This can be applied in various fields like education, marketing, productivity, for training people, for physiotherapy, and whatnot. So when we are trying to incorporate gamification, we have to think of certain elements which we need to incorporate. So the first thing is there has to be some kind of reward system. Now, reward can be monetary in terms of like I can give you money, but it can be other things which people can perceive as money. So let's say I am earning points. And if there is an element of challenge, like I am earning points and how many points I can earn today, and I am comparing myself how many points I earn today versus how many points I will have tomorrow, or how many points I earn versus how many points my friend earn, the points now becomes a kind of a currency. If I can use these points to buy something in the game or get some advantage point, it becomes like currency. So points, badges, different kinds of levels, we mentally will start associating them with monetary rewards. So anything which can motivate us to continue our participation. That is a key element of gamification, and we have to see how we can implement it in any kind of educational context, any kind of serious context, and that is an element of gamification. The next one is competition. Now, competition can be incorporated again in many different ways. I can have a leaderboard where I can be competing against strangers. I can be competing against my own self. I can be competing against bots. There can be different kinds of challenges. So let's say lots of fitness apps gives you different kinds of badges, or it will tell you, oh, you are so great, you are so consistent. Or it can tell you that you are getting better, you are losing weight consistently. So these are they are awarding you, they are encouraging you, or they might discourage you for not being consistent, or they might just say, oh, it's okay, you were not able to do it today. So these are all aspects which try to bring in certain elements of competition. The main aim is I want to drive engagement and performance. The next element is I should be able to constantly track progress. So in any serious game, when we are trying to make people learn something, most of the serious gamification is about learning something or changing behavior. Even when I'm trying to make people change behavior, they have to learn a new behavior and unlearn an existing behavior. So these are very slow processes. And I need to constantly see that I am progressing, to feel good about it and to see that, yes, I am going somewhere. So progress tracking is extremely important. Now, my progress might be extremely slow, my progress might be fast. Now, your progress tracker needs to encourage people to continue them to keep participating. So it has to be a visual representation in a manner that it constantly needs. So if your progress is supposed to be slow, the visual representation has to be in a manner that it should show that, oh, you are making as much progress as you should have made, so that you do not feel that, oh, I'm progressing so slow. It should provide you a sense of accomplishment. The next key element is there should be a story, because stories are extremely important for giving a context, giving a meaning to a particular task. It creates immersion. You feel that you are part of something, you are part of a bigger thing than you yourself. The last and the final thing is an immediate feedback. So let's say I am trying to learn about how to protect myself from an impending flood. Now, in order to protect myself from an impending flood, I need to do many different things. I need to build certain dikes on the river. I need to raise my house, build it on a certain height. I will have to buy insurance. If the flood is coming, I have to appropriately secure my home, secure my animals if I have animals. If I have vehicles, I will have to take to a highland area. I will have to also have a escape plan at just the right time. Now, doing all these activities takes a lot of time in real life. But if you are designing a game which needs to teach people all these different things, you don't have so much time in the game to make them learn all these things. They need to do certain activities in very short time frames, and they need to get quick feedback. They need to get immediate feedback, quick responses. And you need to constantly reinforce positive behavior. And it might not be same in line with what you get in real life scenario, but you cannot modulate the exact real life scenario in the game, because if you try to do that, it might have very negative consequences. So in this gamification, we might have to sometimes take a call between how much to present of the real situation and how fast to present it, so that people have a sense of reality, but not too much of time, and there is constant reinforcement of positive feedback. Now, let me make it more concrete for you by giving you an example and taking you through the steps of creating a serious game. These are the 10 steps for creating any serious game. Now, you can create this serious game either in a digital format or on a non-digital format. The format is not something which I am going to focus on. I am going to focus on the conceptualization part of it. How do you conceptualize the game? After these 10 steps, the next part becomes the actual making process of the game. It is then that you need actually different processes, which is like whether you go digital, and if you take digital, whether you will go mobile or whether you will go on a console, whether it will be platform independent or whether it will be a board game, and so on. You have to take specific decisions, and then your production decisions will go on in that particular line. So let's look at the conceptualization part of a serious game. So the first step is define objectives. The next one is choose the game mechanics. Then you develop the core concept. Then you have to balance the education and entertainment part of it. Then you design the game components. Then you have to write down the rules. Then you keep on iterating it by playtesting it. You have to consider scalability and adaptability. When you start doing this iterate and playtest at this phase itself, you will have to, the modality, the digital, non-digital already start coming into picture. Scalability and adaptability, again, the modality is very important. And after these playtests, you will start reflecting whether the learning objective is happening or not. You will evaluate and measure the impact. Now, I have shown you this as a linear process. However, in practice, this is not a linear process. You will be jumping between these processes in any order and any sequence as per the requirement. So let me take you step by step with an example. So the first step is define your objective. Here, what you do is clearly identify the primary purpose of your game. So example is like you want to teach a specific subject, or you want to develop a certain skill, like raising awareness about an issue. Then you list your specific learning outcome or messages you want to convey. Then you have to consider your target audience and their characteristics and benchmark with existing games, if any. So, for example, in our case, we had decided that we want to create a game which teaches people in rural areas of northeastern India about floods. So northeastern part of India is very flood prone. There are lots of plain areas surrounded by hilly areas, and it rains very heavily over here, and there are lots of rivers. As a result, the occurrences of floods every year is pretty high, In a single year, there will be multiple floods in a single area. The rural areas are very badly affected. And although it's a recurrent phenomena, there is not much teaching aids available to people. They do not know how to deal with these situations. So we want our target group. So if you look at this define, we have to first identify our primary purpose of the game. So our primary purpose of the game was to teach people how to build resilience towards floods. The geographic condition is such that floods will come. The floods are not totally very bad also, because when the floods happen, they also enrich the soil. So if the floods, if people can have appropriate protection from the damages due to the flood, to a certain extent, they can also be used to the benefit of the people if they are planned properly. So we want our primary purpose, that's why, was to teach them how to manage the floods and to prepare for the floods appropriately in rural areas. Now, to whom did we want to specifically target this message? Our message was mainly targeted for anybody who is above 10 years of age. So the National Disaster Response Force, they regularly, and other NGOs also, conduct these training programs in different schools across Northeast, trying to train the kids on how to, kids as well as adults, on how to deal with these floods. We targeted anybody above 10 years because we believe that above 10 years of age, they are mature enough to deal with these thinking processes. They can, if we target kids in school, they can also go back home and start a dialogue in their home that we can do these activities and build in resilience. Kids are a very strong force. And the same kids can also be used for adults. If kids are able to understand them, grown-ups can also understand them. So we decided on our primary target audience, the age group as well as the key characteristics. They have to be rural people. The next step was we started benchmarking against existing games. Many games were available. Some of them were board-based games. Some of them were board and card-based games. Some of them were digital games. However, in our case, at the very beginning, we had decided that, so as I told you, it is not important at the very beginning to decide for a modality, but it does not mean that you cannot decide a modality. If you decide for a modality to go ahead with, then it makes your whole product design process more streamlined. In our context, we had decided that we will go with a non-digital platform first, because the reach out for the product and the cost of the product will be much lower in that particular context. We were not planning it as a business to consumer product. So we are not planning that we will sell it to individual customers. We were planning it that it will be used by NGOs or National Disaster Rescue Force, NDRF, as training toolkits only. So we want to produce less number of these pieces and used only for training purposes. So we had decided for a non-digital format. We had still not decided that it will be a combination of board, card, or dice. After deciding on this objective, the next thing to decide on, so here what I present to is the final product. After defining your objective, the next thing is to design the game mechanics. Now, as I told you, the last step of the define objective is to benchmark with existing games. So when we studied all the existing games, what we observed was, in all the existing games, the characters, the players in the game would die. And statistics said says that after any flood, the suicide rate amongst boys and men in the age group of 10 to 29 years drastically rises up. Now you can imagine these are kids, these are boys, 10-year-old, 12 years old, and they are considering suicide after a flood. That is their mental state. And to the same populace, when you're trying to teach them about flood awareness, and in the game the child is dying, we did not see that as a very good game mechanics. Also, in all these game mechanics, it was all about competition. Whereas if it is a flood scenario, you cannot save just yourself. If you want to be safe and secure, it is the entire community which has to work together, and only then you can save yourself. So we decided that we are not going to follow the game mechanics which all other games have followed. So that's where it is very important to go to the second step, which is about choose the core game mechanics. So you select the mechanic that supports your objectives. We know that in order to come to this core game mechanics, we spoke to various experts working in the domain of disaster management. They were experts from rescue forces, experts from people who study floods, people who study psychology of people who deal with flood victims, and so on. So after studying with them, we realized that our core mechanics should be around making people realize that the strength is in collectivity. The strength is in realizing that we all win when we all win together. And we should not make people feel that they have been left behind. So we decided our core mechanics will be nobody in the game dies. So in our game, if anybody gets caught in the flood, so if you see in our game, if you see this, I hope you can see my cursor. If you see this green line over here and this green line over here, this is how the flood progresses through the game. So these two lines show the progress of the flood. So these two lines when are progressing, so if somebody gets stuck in the flood, then others have the possibility to rescue them. In case there is nobody to rescue the person, then it is assumed that the person is out of the game, but it is said that the person has been rescued by NDRF, and we don't declare that the person is dead in the game. Then because we decided that the core mechanics is going to be collaborative, as I told you, one of the key elements of any gamification is competitiveness. So now our whole task in the game was this bunch of people who are going to play together, they have to compete with each other while collaborating with each other. So how we design the rest of the mechanics so that they are competing and collaborating at the same time. Very interesting challenge for all of us to deal with. So let's see how we went ahead with it. Now, while doing these mechanics, you have to also constantly keep yourself reminded that choose familiar mechanics to reduce the learning curve. So don't be scared if on the first round of a game, your players are trying to understand the rules, because the first round is always the most difficult round of any game, and the players will always be trying to understand the rules of the game. At that point of time, it is normal for them to ask questions. In case you feel that you can further improve it to reduce them, it is fine. But from the second round onwards, game should go more or less fine. So here you can see that this is a board on which we have 6 participants who are playing. So 5 of them are players who are competing against each other while collaborating with each other as well. The 6th one is the moderator. Over here, you can see that the flood has flood lines are over here. This is the point at which the game ends. And you can see all of them have still survived. So basically, they are all competing with each other. They're all laughing. So the game is tensed, but they are still laughing. They are collaborating. They have all survived. And there is still one person who is a winner. So how we achieved it? So we started with we have designed 3 kinds of currencies in our game. One currency is the resource currency, which you can think of as the money. So you need money to buy everything. But the person who wins is not the person who has the highest amount of money. But you have to take care of your money because you cannot get anything in the game if you don't have money. The person who wins is the person who has the highest amount of kindness. That's the one winning criteria. The other winner is the one who has the highest amount of knowledge. And the third winner is the one who has the highest amount of knowledge plus kindness. By designing this, we created a scenario wherein you have to have enough resources, which means you have to look at self-sustenance. Competition is important. But at the same time, you have to earn kindness points. Kindness points you earn by collaborating, by helping others. Similarly, the knowledge point you earn by gaining knowledge. Why do you gain knowledge? Knowledge can be gained in this game for 2 different purposes. One, for helping others. The other, for helping one's own self, for one's own sustenance. So, after choosing this core game mechanics, we choose smaller mechanics, which are in line with this core mechanics. Now we will join these smaller mechanics, which can be about resource management, area control, deck building, worker placement, cooperative play, how I'm gonna do the dice. So in our case, our dice has 1, 2, and 3. So 2 of the sides is 1, and so you can understand that. So we have 2 different kinds of dice. One dice for the flood. So the moderator throws that dice, and the other dice for the players to throw. How do we do the elimination of other players? How do we do different kinds of bidding? How the story progresses? Do we have any element of bluffing involved? How player elimination is happening? So in our case, player elimination is happening, but we are not calling it as death. We are saying that the player got rescued by NDRF. That's how the storytelling creates a different feeling about the story, the player elimination. So you can see on our board, there are these question marks. So when we were doing our research, we found that there was a research wherein the researchers studied flood deaths and flood casualties, some around 800 case studies across the globe, and did a statistical analysis to identify what are the different causes behind deaths and casualties during floods. And they identified that there are several factors. One of the key factor was people trying to behave irresponsibly during floods. They're just trying to see, oh, what if I try this? Oh, what if I do this? So we built in these encounters. Now, what happens at these encounters is, it's a point of curiosity. At encounters, you can go and you can help also somebody. So at an encounter, you can go and draw a card, and maybe there is a orphan child over there, and you can spend some resources and offer some food to the child, or you can spend some resources and rescue the child. You can find a disabled person, and you can help in rescue of the person. You spend your resources, the monetary resources, and gain some kindness resources. So these encounters are helpful encounters. There might be other encounters, like you get an infectious disease. So before these encounters, you can see on this corner, there is a plus sign. If you had stepped on that plus sign, you could have collected a medical kit plus the knowledge on how to use that medical kit. So you would have you could have, if you had gotten that infectious disease, you could have used that and you could have moved on. Otherwise, for 2 rounds, you cannot move on. You have to stay there. So what it is teaching people is, in the process, that you should always be prepared with a first aid kit. It also teaches them that you can help people. So it was not possible to incorporate large number of players. So by incorporating orphan children, disabled people, and other such non-player characters, we built in these facts that whom all are the people who are more vulnerable during this situation, and you might need to help them. So as I told you, from the core mechanics of collaboration, we were trying to build in how all you need to collaborate. So we are developing on this course concept. We created a central theme or narrative that aligns with our objective, and then we are building it around it. So I will show you how the build-up is happening. So say, for example, I can go to, so you can see over here, there is a community center. So as I am moving through, I can decide to go to the community center. Now, in many of the boards, you can only move forward or left or right. So there are very defined rules where you can move. On our board, you can move in any direction. So if your dice throw says 3, you can move 3 blocks in any random direction. You can move diagonally, you can move straight, you can move one front, one diagonal, whatever. It is like natural movement of people. So if you decide to go and move into the community center, you can, you get to pick up a card. Now let's say I am interested more in picking up this community upgrade. So I will spend 3 of my resources to upgrade something. So I am getting a strong barrier, a flood barrier to shield public areas from the flood water. So I am spending 3 resources and I am gaining 2 knowledge. Now what happens by getting this card? So when you get this card, you are supposed to put this card on the table. After lots of play tests, we decided that we will play this game with anywhere between 4 to 8 players. So we are gonna play this game in a setup like this. So here you can see this person has the roll card. All of them are supposed to keep their cards exposed to each other. When someone is playing their cards, the other person has nothing else to do. The next person is thinking of their strategy. The next person is thinking of their strategy. But the other person who has their turn still waiting has nothing much to do. So we thought the best way to learn something is by looking at it, where you don't think that you are learning, but because the information is put in front of you, the learning just happens. So you know by chance. So we observed this. So we went to a particular training session which NDRF conducts in these rural areas, in how they can build different things which the villagers can use to rescue themselves. And we studied what are the different things that they train them in, how they can build their own small rescue devices with things available to them. So we took these inspirations and we converted all of them into our different kinds of cards. So here you can see that we have converted this into a water purification. card. I have made all these things to show you in English so that all of you can read and understand it. Our actual cards are in local languages. So we developed all these different cards so that people can keep seeing them. So the others who are not actually thinking of the strategy, they are looking at these cards and decks placed in front of them. So that is how we keep on developing this whole deck. After doing this, our next major task is how do we balance the education and the entertainment. So make sure the game is fun and engaging. Integrate learning seamlessly into gameplay. Avoid making the educational aspects feel forced or separate from the game. So when we built our first version of the game, so this is the version that we iterated several times. Here I'm showing you the game being played by adults only because of privacy reasons. We don't want to showcase to you the games being played by kids. So when we made our previous versions, most of these cards had also, right now you can see the water purification entire thing is made into a illustration. Earlier, more of this information was written down in words. So we created a good balance between illustration and word, where the balance comes. If we make it completely an illustration, people will not understand. If we make it very wordy, people will not get it. What should be the exact size? So we decided onto these kind of folds and how they should stand on the table, where they should be standing on the basis of iterative research, so that the education and the entertainment part of it can be balanced. Even we observe that, so our game can be played if we have anywhere between 4 to 8 players. However, when the game has like around 6 to 7 players, it goes the best. Each time the game is being played, because the flood also progresses on the basis of the dice roll, the game goes differently. So even if the same player plays the game multiple times, they get to learn new things and different things. After our balancing is done, then we go into designing the game components. So here we start creating the visual appeal for the cards, the boards. We had a lot of discussion even on what should be the size of this board. So if you look at this particular size of the board with respect to the people and the tables and chairs, you can see that the game starts from this particular corner. So this is a riverside village with lots of houses over here. And they have to traverse all this way diagonally to this particular point where the rescue point is. Earlier, we made a smaller sized board. It had the same number of blocks, just the size of the squares were smaller. But then we realized that psychologically, although the number of blocks was same, but the feeling that a flood is coming was not that dangerous. So we increased the size of the squares, keeping the same number of squares, till we felt, people felt the severity of the flood coming as much as we wanted to feel them. We didn't want to make them feel very strong. Earlier, our flood was red. We felt that people were a little scared because this was like 2 red lines approaching. So then you can see now in our latest design, these are blue lines with red on the other side. So it does show certain amount of danger, but not a lot of danger. We decided the color of this blue. So it is not like calm blue that we associate with water, but it is a way much darker blue to show that the water is not calm. But we did not make it look very dangerous or to look or to steal the attention from where we want our attention to. You can see how the board is designed design. The brown color over here, the forested patch over here. The forested patch over here tries to tell that if you, so the flood moves very fast because in this light green patch because it is plain. The flood moves very slow in this green patch because it is forested. So it tries to teach that if you have community forest, then the flood will move slow through it. So these are the parts of the design elements. So once our game mechanics are fixed, we define the visual appeal, we design the graphics and the text and ensure that all components are functional and support the gameplay and support the core mechanics of the game. These were the inspirations that we took from NDRF, the items that they use right now for their training purposes, how they train people in designing, in making the rescue things out of commonly available materials in villages. Before you start any kind of play testing, even with your rudimentary concepts, you should always write down the rules clearly. The rules should be written down in a manner that they are easy to understand. Challenge yourself that each rule should be just one sentence and should fit in one line of an A4. You can use examples to illustrate a complex concept if in case you have it, try to not have it. You can also include a quick start guide for beginners. So say, for example, a visual guide of this kind can be very helpful. So let's say I want to say that there are two types of dice. So I just made in the rule book dice. This is for everything. This is for resource collection. And when you put it, somehow the colors are not visible over here. So in the booklet, this is in two different colors. So it is very easy for the person who is reading the rule book to very easily grasp the point that, okay, this color is for everything and this is for resource collection. They don't have to read a sentence. So if you can avoid a sentence, avoid a sentence. People don't like to read so much, and this is an easier format. This clearly gives so on the board, there is this kind of a tile, the tile with question mark, it says action tile, and you know that these are the cards associated with it. And so on the rule book, I put it like this, and everybody knows that, okay, these cards are associated with this tile. So if it is possible to make your rules by using visuals, then try to use it as much as possible. So use as less text as possible, but ensure that it is understandable. Don't reduce text so much that it is not understandable. In the very beginning, so I showed you the final version. This is one of our prototype version where we did not have any cards, our cards. So this, as I told you initially, we had everything written down. So this is how our cards looked in the beginning. They were like sticky notes where we had written down, okay, this will be, they have a torch, have some kind of chlorine tablets for water purification, this kit. These were our pawns, which were basically whatever we had as small toys. We want to have this currency. So we used a mobile app where we just created some counters. And this was our first smaller board. You can see how small this board is as compared to the large board that we finally went into. You can also see the light blue color, which looks more like a swimming pool color. And you keep on iterating it. After every playtest, you will be able to make multiple revisions and develop your game further. Always think of scalability and adaptability. So design for different player counts if possible. So like we designed our game for anywhere between 4 to 8 players. So when you design it like that, so any of the games that we know, I mean, some games like, say, for example, chess, you can only is only possible to play with two players. But many other games, they do offer that possibility. So if you can offer that possibility, it improves its adaptability. So if it is possible, try to bring that. If it is not possible, if it doesn't make any sense for your game, then you can also think, how can you create variants or expansions? So for example, right now we have this mechanics ready for us, and we already know how we can, because the rural context, we have certain kind of stakeholders like farmers, a taxi driver, a teacher, a doctor, and certain fisherman, and certain other rural stakeholders. We also have a rural setting. Now, if you want to move it to an urban setting, or let's say I want to move away from Northeast and I want to look at flooding in a different part of India, I know what all changes that I need to do in this core game, and quickly create a variant or an expansion to this thing. If you can think of those things while you are designing this product, your game will have higher scalability and adaptability, and that improves its market potential. Because a serious game's main purpose is its learning. So you need to constantly keep testing it, and you need to incorporate the reflections and debriefings that you are getting, and keep checking whether the learnings are happening or not. And these evaluations and measures need to be constantly incorporated into the game. Now, what I told you was the conceptualization. If I need to simply tell you just one mantra about serious game design, then it's this. Just think of one thing that you need to do is balance your educational goals with engaging gameplay. If you can just do that one thing, balancing the educational goal with the fun part of it, the engagement part of gameplay, then you are sorted. Everything else then gets sorted. And then comes your main journey of building that product from the concept to something that you can actually put into the market. So you have to design it into a production ready product. That's yet another journey. So here is our team behind the game. And I think I am on good time, and we can take some questions.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for the engaging and thought-provoking session. And we now open the floor for our question and answer session. So we invite questions from our panel members as well as the participants. You can write your questions in the chat box in the question and answer tab. First question, which is already there in from the participant. From Mr. Sari. Question is, have you experienced a flood firsthand?
Yeah, I did. So I mean, our life in the campus of IIT Guwahati is pretty much good and safe from floods, because the drainage system has been appropriately designed by the best of civil engineers that the country has. However, if we go to Guwahati city or any nearby area, then our life is pretty much disrupted by floods. So it is a phenomena that we constantly deal with, and we have to generally plan our lives around it.
Okay. Another question. One question from Elizabeth, ma'am. Should I read, or ma'am, you would like to read?
Yeah.
Okay. Question is that are there other teachers who present the game, and how much information do you need to give to them as teacher or educators?
Actually, the cards have all the game. So the moderator's job is, so we have a moderator's booklet. So the moderator's job is to explain how to play the game. So on the first round, the moderator just explains to everybody how to play the game. And then the people start playing the game, and the moderator just keeps on making the throwing the dice for the flood, and all the knowledge and everything is there on the cards. So the game pretty much flows by themselves.
Okay. Any more questions? Panel
I have a
members?
question about have you been testing the results? Have you been studying the players, how they have been, if they have been able to utilize the learnings from the gameplay in actual flood events?
So right now we have started the training program, and the flood season starts from April. So we will see how much effect did it have this year.
Okay, thanks.
So the learning process is going well. People seem to be, kids seem to be learning. So we don't expect that there will be a lot of change which will happen in this year itself, because some of the changes will need at least a year's time. Like they have to go and build certain things. They have to go get certain things. But we are expecting that they will at least devise their flotation devices and other things which help in rescue. And this April, at least the villages where we are going and doing the training, there will be a better response.
Okay. Another question from Elizabeth Leek, ma'am. In the design process, to what extent is there scope for unanticipated or unexpected behaviors and outcomes? And will you be able to collect data about the learning over time?
We are planning to set up an experiment right now, to collect data over a couple of years. That's the idea that we are in the state of Assam, in district of Kamrup. So our first aim is that we will operationalize in this particular district in nearby rural areas which are affected by flood in this particular year. So in the month of February, conduct training sessions, and then for next 5 years we will be measuring the outcome. So usually what happens is, if I conduct a training program now, then if I go next year, they will usually forget everything. So if I conduct a training program in February, they will remember things when the floods start coming in April onwards. But I will again have to go back and train them again back in next February. So that's what the experience of the trainers is telling us. So they are saying that if they don't go back every year, then the impact just veers off. So we are right now planning to go and set this up for every year. So we will set up a set of 10 villages where we plan to do it every year. Another set where we want to do it every alternate year, and see what the difference is. So currently the trainers, they are doing without any kind of tools or equipments. They go there, they do demonstrations and so on. Now, when you're doing demonstrations and all that, it is basically said information, right? So you hear it and we tend to forget it. But when you are playing through it and you are practicing it, and the game keeps on going on for about 2 hours, it is quite a lot of repetition because the same card keeps on happening, and you do it in smaller groups of 6 to 8 people. So our assumption is that the retention might be way much more higher because you yourself are doing it and there is no one telling it to you. So we want to see if this way of teaching will have a better retention as compared to the current way that they are training, where they come and tell and then they go away and the knowledge is evaporated within a year's time frame.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like practical matters. This game, for me, it seems like very theoretical. I like action and I like to do things in the real world. So I'm thinking about the possibility to, let's say that you go to villages and you play the game. Would it be possible to connect the gameplay into like physical activities in the village? So you walk around and you simulate, okay, let's say it would be a flood coming now. So you go to place and think that, okay, what do you need to do in different places so that you connect the cognitive learning into physical learning?
See, there is a different kind of a problem over there. So the people, they are, for them, this is not the main activity that they want to do. They want to be busy with their day-to-day life. They are mostly farmers and have quite low income. So even when they are called for training programs, they are not very much willing to come. So that's why our target is school children. Now, school children, they also send their children to school, assuming that they will study and then they will go get some urban jobs. So now if we go and take them around in areas and do these kind of activities, it is not seen as a very highly respectable thing. Whereas these kind of activities, this is seen as something wherein the parents will think that, oh, okay, my kids are doing something awesome. The kids give a lot of importance to these kind of activities. So we also have to see the socio-economic and the psychological uh, mm, uh, factors that affect the people of the region, what they associate as desirable and what they do not associate as desirable. They are pretty happily living with their floods. They don't see particularly that as undesirable because that is something which brings them fertility every year. They are only like, okay, it has come. How do I rescue myself? They just need to know those things. So it's a very different kind of a world as compared to other places where flood is a big problem. Here, flood brings fertility.
Okay, so is there, well, what is the problem then?
The problem is because of, so earlier, there was a lot of land available. So water can have good space. Now there is a lot of encroachment. So all that land is not available. So there is more water rise in areas which have been encroached by people. Also, people have gone away from natural way of building. As a result, the impacts have changed. People also do not anymore live just the same way of life as they used to live earlier. So their coping mechanisms are no longer the same. So now we need to teach them newer coping mechanisms. That's where we are trying to bring in this some newer coping mechanisms.
So it's like a change in culture.
Yeah, it's a change in culture. So it is like a changing world where they are changing, but they do not know how to adapt to the newer things. And we just bring in them the newer things that you can do so that you can change to the newer way of doing things. So simple example, like here, because there is a lot of water. So in rural areas, it is normal to have like 2 ponds in your house. One pond for disposing of household waste. Another pond from which they will use water for all household activities. After few years, they will use this previous pond. They will take all the household garbage they had put into it, that is compost now. They will take it, put it into their field, and now it is clean. Now that will be used for water. The other one becomes the garbage pond. Now with plastic getting introduced, because now everybody buys cookies in plastic, and rural areas don't have any municipal collection of this garbage. They don't know what to do with this garbage. It is again garbage, but it is not compostable garbage. They put it over there, and now it is a big mess. Now it does not follow the same ecological cycle. So we need to bring in a new system over there to teach them, okay, please don't do it. Please don't burn it, because this is spoiling your ecosystem.
But
That's where the intervention.
is this not really then a leadership problem?
Yes. So it is a problem where we have to bring in small interventions wherein they learn how to adapt to the newer systems, wherein still continuing with their older systems with modifications.
Interesting. It's very beautiful, interesting, because I live in Finland. Everything is super efficiently organized, and I think that is not either the right, because then everything becomes so static and clinical and boring. So I think it's beautiful that you have this kind of organic systems that you can play and operate in.
So they have very beautiful systems. So say, for example, there is this, so there are people who do very beautiful farming using this flooding system. So they will first do farming of jute. Jute, after it has grown up, you need to let it rot for the fiber to come out. So when the rains will come, then it's the time for the jute to do that process. So they will cut the jute and leave it on the field, and there is flood. And there will be months of flood. We will have couple of months of flood. And when and then there is fish all over the place. Fish is feeding on that jute. So the process of rotting is happening faster. When the flood is gone, they have fish and the jute, the rotten jute and the fish poop, they have made the field very fertile. And then there is little water left in the field. They will take away all the jute fiber, they will send it for processing, and they will use this fertile place for growing their rice in a very rich soil. And then again, the whole process will go on. This rice will be harvested, then they will put in jute, and the cycle will keep on going on.
Okay, so the purpose of the game would then be how to utilize the flood best to the best interest of the community.
Yeah. So that's why we have to adapt it from community to community, because not every community can do the one same thing. So we have designed it to be scalable. So we go now to every community, study it quickly, and make some scalable things and adjust and give everyone a little bit customized solution.
Okay, sounds like fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are taking one question from the participants. Question is from Agrati Mohta. What extension of the enhancement of rules were come up within order to make the also suitable for other locations apart from the northeastern area? And what size of a rule book have you gone with? And is there a zone that is the box made for keeping the action cards, or are they revealed to play during the entire gameplay?
Sorry, I did not get the. Can you divide the? There are lots of parts in the question. Can you just
Can you
tell me
read
the
in
first?
the from the question and answer tab? You can see
question and answer.
Q&A.
Okay, yeah, I found it. Yeah. Okay, so what extension or the enhancement of rules were come up with in order to make the also suitable for other location? Okay, so right now, this is suitable for northeastern area only. We have not worked on any other part of India right now because we need to do research. Every part is very unique. So whatever I told about the unique features of the in northeastern, they are not applicable in most other parts. So even like urban flood in northeast is very different from these rural floods. So we have to do certain changes. We have not studied those. What size of a rule book have you gone with? Okay, our rule book is right now A5 rule book, and I think it has some 6-7 pages, but we hardly have text. Like I showed you that one dice and something like that. So it is 6-7 pages of those kind of things only. And what? Is there a zone X, that is the box made for keeping the action card, or are the revealed to play during the entire gameplay? No, it's like any other card based. I mean, like you play the normal cards. I mean, like you place them all in a deck and then you have to draw one card. So when they are not being played, so I mean, when you have to draw one card, they are all kept as a deck. So you have to draw from there. And when you have drawn it, then after that, you're supposed to keep it displayed to everybody so that people can uh, uh, keep seeing it in front of them. So the whole idea is you learn because it is just kept in front of you. And you after you get it, you're supposed to read it aloud to everybody. Oh, I got this, and this means this, and then keep it over there for others to see. And because you can trade those cards to get knowledge or kindness, so others also keep an eye on what they have. So they can ask you, give me that, and you might be interested in giving that to get some knowledge and kindness.
Okay, so due to shortage of time, I think we must skip remaining questions. And we will post questions to you so that you can answer later, and we will send it to them.
Yeah.
So after the enriching session, a big thank you to Dr. Sharmishta Banerjee ma'am for sharing her valuable insights, and all the participants for their active engagement. And to formally conclude the session, I invite Dr. Jigyasu Dubey, Coordinator of Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Rupali. First of all, we express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Sharmishta for accepting our invitation to conduct this first session of the year. We are also thankful to the International Simulation and Gaming Association ISAGA for their collaboration and support in the organization of this webinar series, Pratiti Becoming Aware. We are also thankful to Dr. Upinder, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University, for their continuous guidance and encouragement. Our sincere thanks to our panelists, Dr. Elizabeth, Irina, Vile, Edwin, Dr. Ramesh, Dr. Vinodji, Dr. Ramesh Sharmaji, and all other participants who make this webinar successful. I am also thankful to Dr. Rupali Bharti, all the members of Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming, and IT team of the university for their kind support. At last, thank you to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. Next month, we have Dr. Elizabeth Leak as our second speaker of this year. So requesting all of you to join us for this next webinar also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So before we
Bye.
conclude, we kindly request all participants to take a moment to fill the feedback form with the link in chat box for receiving your e-certificates. And with this, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you once again to our esteemed speakers, panel members, and participants for making this session a success. And we look forward for your participation in the upcoming session of our webinar series, Pratiti 2025. Thank you. Wishing you all
Thank
a
you.
wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. Thank you, Ele.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
नमस्ते everyone.
नमस्ते शर्मा जी,
नमस्ते जिज्ञासु जी.
कैसे हैं सर?
हाँ ठीक है.